At 65, your body starts whispering warnings you can't ignore anymore. Joints stiffen, balance falters, energy drains by mid-afternoon. You've probably heard the standard advice: join a gym, lift weights, do cardio. But here's what nobody tells you. In Japan, where people routinely live active, independent lives past 90, the elders don't set foot in gyms. They don't own fancy equipment. They don't even break a sweat most days. Yet their bodies move with a grace and resilience that puts younger generations to shame. What are they doing that we're missing? The answer lies in 6 simple movements, practiced daily, that rewire your nervous system, lubricate your joints, and restore the kind of strength that actually matters after 65. Not the kind that helps you bench press your body weight, the kind that lets you get off the floor without using your hands, the kind that prevents the fall that sends 1 in 3 seniors to the hospital every single year, the kind that keeps you cooking your own meals, tending your own garden, living in your own home instead of depending on others. Here's the truth buried in decades of longevity research. The Japanese approach to movement after 65 isn't about intensity. It's about precision. It's about working with your body's natural design instead of fighting against the aging process. And the most surprising part? The second movement on this list, something you can do while watching television, has been linked to a 40% reduction in fall risk within just 8 weeks. But it's the first movement we'll cover, the one Japanese elders do before their feet even touch the floor each morning. That might be the most transformative practice you'll ever adopt. Before we dive in, I'm curious. How old are you, and where are you watching this from? Drop a comment. I read every single one, and your experiences help shape future content for this community. Let's start with the foundation. Every morning, before Japanese elders rise from bed, they perform what's called ashi no undu, which translates simply to leg movement. But it's not just any leg movement. It's a specific sequence done while still lying down that awakens your circulation, tests your joint range, and primes your nervous system for the day ahead. Think of it as a systems check for your body, the same way you'd warm up a car engine on a cold morning before driving. Why does this matter so much after 65? Because overnight, while you sleep, fluid settles in your joints. Your blood pressure drops. Your muscles remain static for hours. When you suddenly stand up and start moving, you're asking cold, stiff tissues to perform immediately. That's when injuries happen. That's when you feel that sharp pain in your knee or that dizzy spell that makes you grab the nightstand. Research from gerontology centers across multiple countries has found that people who perform gentle range of motion exercises before getting out of bed report significantly fewer morning falls and joint pain episodes compared to those who simply swing their legs over and stand up. The difference isn't small. We're talking about reducing your risk of the most dangerous time of day for seniors. Let me tell you about Margaret, 68, a retired librarian from Ohio. She contacted me last fall after her 3rd near fall in the bathroom before breakfast. She described that heart-stopping moment when your foot doesn't land where your brain thinks it will, when you realize you're about to go down and there's nothing to grab. Her doctor suggested a walker. She wasn't ready for that. Instead, we started with this single practice. Every morning, still lying in bed, she began moving her ankles in circles 10 times each direction, then flexing and pointing her feet 10 times, then slowly raising one knee toward her chest, holding for 3 breaths, alternating sides 5 times each, then gently letting her knees fall side to side together, a simple spinal twist, 5 times. The entire sequence took 3 minutes. Within 2 weeks, Margaret noticed she could stand up without that initial stiffness. Within a month, the near falls stopped completely. She messaged me, "I feel like I'm easing into my body instead of jolting it awake. Here's your protocol. Tomorrow morning, before you get out of bed, try this exact sequence. Lie on your back. Start with ankle circles, 10 each direction per foot. Don't force anything, just gentle rotations. Then flex and point your feet 10 times like you're pressing an invisible gas pedal. Next, draw one knee toward your chest as far as comfortable. Hold for 3 slow breaths, lower it, repeat with the other leg. 5 times per side. Finally, keep your knees bent, feet flat on the mattress, and let both knees drop gently to the left. Pause, bring them back to center, drop them to the right, pause, back to center. Do this 5 times. That's it. 3 minutes. Every morning. No excuses. No equipment. Just you and your bed, preparing your body for the day ahead. Now here's where it gets interesting. The second movement builds on that foundation, and it's the one that shocked me when I first learned about it. Because it seems almost too simple to work, Japanese elders call it kata ashidachi, which means one leg standing. But before you worry that you can't balance on one leg, understand this isn't about achieving perfect balance like a yoga instructor. This is about training your proprioception, which is your body's awareness of where it is in space. After 60, this awareness naturally declines. Your inner ear changes. The nerve signals from your feet to your brain slow down. That's why you misjudge steps. That's why you trip over nothing. That's why you feel unsteady on uneven ground. Studies examining balance training in older adults have consistently found that even brief daily practice, as little as 1 minute per day, produces measurable improvements in stability and confidence. Some analyses suggest fall risk can drop by 30 to 40% in people who maintain a regular balance practice for 2 months. The key word is regular, not intense, not long, just consistent. Here's what makes the Japanese approach different. They don't practice balancing in isolation. They integrate it into daily life, while brushing their teeth, while waiting for water to boil, while standing at the kitchen counter preparing vegetables. They make it invisible, woven into existing routines, so it never feels like exercise. It just becomes part of how they move through the world. Thomas, 71, a former engineer from Florida, had stopped walking his dog after he stumbled on a crack in the sidewalk and caught himself just before hitting the pavement. His confidence was shattered. He told me he kept replaying that moment, imagining what would have happened if he'd fallen. We started simple. Every morning and evening while brushing his teeth, Thomas would lift one foot slightly off the ground, just an inch or two, and hold it while he brushed. He kept one hand lightly touching the counter, not gripping it, just resting there for security. First week, he could barely hold it for 30 seconds before his standing legs started shaking. By week 3, he was going the full 2 minutes of brushing without touching the counter. By week 6, he was back walking his dog, and he told me something profound. I'm not afraid of the ground anymore. Your protocol for this one is even simpler than the first. Choose 2 daily activities you already do standing in one spot. Brushing teeth is perfect. Washing dishes works. Waiting for coffee to brew. During those moments, lift one foot just slightly off the ground. Keep your hips level. You can rest one hand lightly on the counter or wall, but try to barely touch it, using it only for security, not support. Hold for as long as comfortable, then switch feet. Do this twice a day. That's it. You're not trying to set records. You're training your nervous system to keep you upright. Over weeks, you'll notice you touch the counter less. Your standing leg will feel more solid. You'll start to trust your body again. But here's the part that connects everything we're doing. Balance isn't just about your legs. It's about your core. And that brings us to the third, movement. The Japanese practice. Something they call fukushiki kokyu, which translates to abdominal breathing, but it's really a core activation technique disguised as breathing. Most people after 60 breathe shallowly, using only the top part of their lungs. Their diaphragm, that dome-shaped muscle under your rib cage, stops moving fully. When your diaphragm doesn't move, the deep core muscles that stabilize your spine don't engage properly. You end up with a weak center, which means everything from standing up to reaching overhead becomes harder and riskier. Medical research into diaphragmatic breathing has documented benefits beyond just oxygen intake. Proper deep breathing has been associated with reduced blood pressure, better digestion, decreased anxiety, and improved core stability. For seniors, that last benefit is critical. Your core muscles are what keep you from tipping over. They're what protect your lower back when you bend. They're what give you the control to lower yourself into a chair gently instead of dropping into it. Here's what Japanese elders understand that most Western exercise programs miss. You don't strengthen your core by doing planks or crunches after 65. Those exercises are too aggressive for aging spines and can actually cause more problems than they solve. Instead, you strengthen your core by learning to breathe properly again, because every deep breath, when done correctly, is a core exercise. I'll never forget Patricia, 73, a former nurse from Texas. She'd developed chronic lower back pain that made her dread getting out of chairs. She'd been doing physical therapy for months with minimal improvement. When I introduced her to abdominal breathing, she was skeptical. "I'm supposed to breathe differently and my back will feel better?" she asked. I told her to try it for 1 week. She called me on day 4. "I don't understand what's happening," she said, "but I stood up from my recliner without that stabbing pain for the first time in a year." What Patricia discovered was that when she breathed deeply, engaging her diaphragm and core, she automatically stabilized her spine. She was doing the work her back needed without even thinking about it. By week 3, she'd reduced her pain medication. By week 8, she'd stopped it entirely. Here's how you practice abdominal breathing. 3 times a day, sit comfortably in a chair with your back supported. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, just below your navel. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. As you breathe in, your belly should push your hand outward while the hand on your chest barely moves. You're filling the bottom of your lungs first, pushing your diaphragm down, which gently expands your abdomen. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. Feeling your belly fall inward, your diaphragm rising back up. Do this for 10 breaths, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening. It takes less than 3 minutes each time. You can do it sitting at your kitchen table, in your living room chair, even in bed. What you're doing is retraining a pattern your body forgot. Within days, you'll notice it starting to happen automatically. Within weeks, you'll feel stronger in your center, more stable when you move. Now, let's talk about something that affects every step you take. The 4th movement addresses a problem almost every person over 65 faces but few people talk about. Your feet are probably broken, and you don't even know it. Japanese elders practice ashi-yubi no undo, which means toe exercises. In the West, we trap our feet in rigid shoes from childhood. We walk on flat, hard surfaces. We never ask our feet to do anything except be platforms. By the time you're 65, your toes have likely lost the ability to spread and grip. The small muscles in your feet have atrophied. Your arches have collapsed. This matters more than you think because your feet are your foundation. If your foundation is weak and rigid, everything built on top, your ankles, knees, hips, and spine, has to compensate. That compensation causes pain and instability. Studies on foot function in older adults have found a strong connection between toe strength and balance. People who could spread their toes and grip with them showed better stability and walking efficiency compared to those whose toes remained passive. The good news is that foot strength can be regained relatively quickly with simple, regular practice. In Japan, many elders still walk barefoot indoors. They practice picking up objects with their toes. They consciously spread their toes when standing. These small actions keep their feet alive and functional. In contrast, most Americans over 60 have feet that are essentially numb, rigid blocks. Then we wonder why we shuffle when we walk, why we trip over small obstacles, why our knees and hips hurt. Robert, 69, a retired mechanic from Michigan, came to me because of persistent knee pain that his doctor said was just arthritis. But when I looked at how he walked, I noticed his feet never fully engaged with the ground. His toes were curled inactive. His arches had collapsed. His feet had checked out years ago and his knees were paying the price. We started toe exercises. Every evening while watching television, Robert would sit with his feet flat on the floor and practice lifting just his big toes while keeping the other toes down. Then he'd lift the 4 small toes while keeping the big toe down. Then he'd try to spread all his toes apart as wide as possible. Finally, he'd place a small towel on the floor and scrunch it toward himself using only his toes, like a caterpillar movement. These exercises felt awkward and frustrating at first. His toes didn't want to move independently. But he stayed consistent. After 3 weeks, he could spread his toes noticeably wider. After 6 weeks, he realized his knee pain had decreased by half. After 3 months, he was pain-free and walking with a spring in his step he hadn't felt in years. The problem was never just his knees. The problem was his feet had stopped doing their job and his knees had been picking up the slack until they broke down. Your foot protocol is simple. Once a day, preferably evening when you're relaxing, sit in a chair and do 4 exercises. First, lift just your big toes while keeping the other 4 down. Hold for 3 seconds, relax, repeat 10 times. Second, lift the 4 small toes while keeping the big toe down. Hold for 3 seconds, relax, repeat 10 times. Third, spread all 5 toes as wide as you can, like you're making a fan. Hold for 3 seconds, relax, repeat 10 times. Fourth, place a hand towel on the floor and scrunch it toward you using only your toes, like a caterpillar pulling it. Do this for 1 minute. That's it. Your feet will feel strange, maybe even tired, which tells you how weak they've become. But within 2 weeks, you'll notice you walk with more stability. Your toes will start to participate in each step. Your balance will improve because your foundation is waking up. The 5th movement is where things get subtle but powerful. It's about your hips, and it might be the most neglected area of your body. Japanese elders perform koshi no kaiten, which translates to hip rotation. But this isn't the hip stretches you might have tried before. This is gentle, mindful rotation that restores your hip joint's full range of motion and lubricates the joint capsule. After 60, your hip joints naturally stiffen. The synovial fluid that keeps them smooth and gliding decreases. The joint capsule, the sleeve of tissue surrounding the hip, tightens. When your hips can't rotate properly, you compensate with your lower back, which causes pain. You compensate with your knees, which causes degeneration. You lose your ability to step over obstacles, to get in and out of cars gracefully, to bend down and tie your shoes without feeling like you're going to fall. Research into hip mobility in older populations has shown that maintaining rotational movement in the hip joint is strongly associated with lower fall rates and better quality of life. People who preserve hip rotation stay independent longer. They're less likely to need walkers or assistance with daily activities. The hip joint is designed to move in multiple directions, but modern sedentary life locks it into one plane, forward and backward. We forget about rotation, and that's where the problems begin. Diane, 70, a retired teacher from Arizona, had developed such tight hips that getting in and out of her car had become painful and embarrassing. She'd have to swing both legs out together like a board, then use the door frame to pull herself up. She'd stopped going places because the logistics of the car made her feel old and helpless. I taught her hip rotation exercises, and her first response was frustration. Her hips barely moved. The rotation that should have been smooth felt blocked and crunchy, but she practiced daily. While lying on her back in bed each morning, she'd do gentle hip rotations. While sitting in a chair each evening, she'd do seated hip circles. Within 4 weeks, she emailed me a video of herself getting out of her car normally, smoothly lifting one leg out, then the other, standing up easily. She was crying in the video. She said, "You gave me my independence back. Here's your hip rotation protocol. You'll do this twice a day, morning and evening, and it takes less than 2 minutes each time. In the morning, still lying in bed after your leg warm-up, bend one knee and place that foot flat on the mattress. Keeping your foot in place, let your knee drop gently outward, opening your hip as far as comfortable. Hold for 3 breaths, bring it back, repeat 5 times, then switch legs. In the evening, sit in a sturdy chair. Lift one foot off the ground and make slow circles with your knee, like you're drawing circles in the air with your kneecap. 5 circles clockwise, 5 counterclockwise, then switch legs. These movements should never hurt. If you feel pain, you're going too far. You're looking for gentle stretch and a sense of space opening in your hip. Over weeks, you'll notice the circles get bigger, the rotation gets smoother, and daily activities that require hip movement, getting dressed, stepping over things, turning while walking, all become easier. Now we arrive at the sixth and final movement, and this one ties everything together. It's the movement that Japanese elders credit with keeping them out of nursing homes and in their own homes well into their 90s. They call it tatami, kara no tachi agari, which means rising from the tatami, or more simply, floor rising. This is the most functional movement you can practice after 65 because it tests and trains everything: leg strength, core stability, balance, coordination, and, most importantly, your confidence that you can handle yourself if you end up on the ground. The fear of falling isn't just about the fall itself. It's about the fear that once you're down, you won't be able to get back up. That's what sends people into assisted living, not the fall. The inability to recover from it. Longitudinal studies tracking older adults over time have found that the ability to sit on the floor and stand back up without using your hands is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and independence. People who can do this maintain muscle strength, balance, and body awareness that protects them from the cascade of decline that often follows retirement. The movement is so predictive of health outcomes that some geriatric assessments now include a simple version of it as a screening tool. But here's the critical difference in the Japanese approach. They're not testing whether you can rise from the floor. They're practicing it as a progression, meeting you where you are, building the strength slowly and safely so that eventually you can do it. Most Western doctors will tell a 70-year-old patient to avoid the floor entirely. Japanese longevity philosophy says the opposite. Befriend the floor. Practice getting down and up regularly and you'll never lose the ability. I think about Edward, 74, a former accountant from Oregon. His grandson had dropped a toy under the coffee table, and Edward instinctively got down on the floor to retrieve it. When he tried to stand back up, he couldn't. He crawled to the couch and used it to pull himself up, but the experience terrified him. He realized he'd lost a fundamental human capacity. We started a floor progression. First week, he practiced sitting down into a chair and standing back up without using his hands, just to rebuild leg strength. Second week, he knelt beside his bed, holding the mattress for support, then practiced standing back up. Third week, he sat on a low-step stool, then stood up. Each week, we lowered the height until, after 3 months, Edward could sit on the floor with his legs crossed and stand back up using only one hand for light balance. He's not trying to do it hands-free. That's not the goal. The goal is capability and confidence. Edward now plays on the floor with his grandchildren. He told me, "I'm not afraid of the ground anymore, and I'm not afraid of getting old." Your floor protocol depends entirely on where you're starting. Never force this. Never risk injury. Begin with what you can do safely today. If getting on the floor feels impossible, start with chair sits. Sit down into a sturdy chair and stand back up without using your hands. Cross your arms over your chest if that helps. Do this 5 times, twice a day. When that becomes easy, use a lower chair. When that becomes easy, move to a step stool or low bench. When that becomes easy, kneel beside your couch or bed and practice standing from kneeling. Eventually, work towards sitting on the floor and standing back up, using your hands as much as you need. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is maintaining and improving your relationship with the ground under your feet. Because the day you stop being able to get up from the floor is the day you lose a piece of your freedom. Don't let that day come. Let's pull all 6 of these movements together. You're not adding hours of exercise to your day. You're adding minutes woven into what you already do. Morning leg warm-up in bed, 3 minutes. One leg standing while brushing teeth, 2 minutes. Abdominal breathing 3 times during the day, 9 minutes total. Toe exercises while watching evening television, 5 minutes. Hip rotations morning and evening, 4 minutes total. Floor progression practice, 5 minutes. Add it up. That's less than 30 minutes spread across your entire day, most of it done during activities you're already doing anyway. No gym, no equipment, no excuses. But here's what really matters. These aren't just exercises. They're a philosophy about aging. In the West, we tend to see the body as a machine that breaks down and needs fixing or replacing. We outsource our health to doctors, pills, and procedures. In Japan, especially among the elders who live longest and healthiest, there's a different view. The body is a garden. You tend it daily. You work with its seasons. You don't fight age. You adapt. You simplify. You focus on what matters. The fundamental movements that keep you independent, connected, and capable of living the life you want. These 6 movements represent that philosophy in action. They're not flashy. They won't give you six-pack abs or Instagram-worthy transformations, but they'll let you keep cooking your own meals, walking to your mailbox, playing with your grandchildren, traveling to visit friends, and sleeping in your own bed in your own home for as many years as possible. That's the real transformation. Not the body you see in the mirror. The life you get to keep living. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. Which of these 6 movements are you going to start with, and why? Drop your answer in the comments. Maybe it's the morning leg warm-up because you're tired of feeling stiff. Maybe it's the balance practice because you've had a close call. Maybe it's the floor progression because you want to play with your grandkids. Whatever it is, tell me. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to take their first step.